This is Michael Popok with a Legal AF hot take. Are you sitting down? Donald Trump went to somebody who makes his fortune giving people with low or no credit in order to obtain the $175 million bond. Yes, you heard it right. Donald Trump went to Don Henke, the king of the subprime auto loan, who's made a living and a killing making loans to people with low or no credit in order for them to obtain a car at 33,000 different dealerships that his company provides that service to. So that's how he's made his money. And he's found somebody that also has low or no credit in the form of Donald Trump. Now, Don Henke is worth about $8 billion, according to Forbes magazine. He owns many companies, and one of them is this Knight Specialty Insurance Company, KSIC, which is an A- rated insurance company that, as one small part of their business, issues surety bonds that are used on appeal and for other purposes. So does it surprise you that Donald Trump had to go to the king of subprime lending because his own credit is basically shot and his IOU is not worth the paper it's written in? But Don Henke is known as a sharp businessman, a shrewd businessman that will only make investments if he can get, in his own words, 30% return on his money. So I assure you, the king of numbers, Don Henke, is fully secured in this bond, dollar for dollar. In other words, Donald Trump had to put up $175 million in a cash segregated account to back the bond in order for this bonding company to put up the surety, to put up the bond or the undertaking that's now been filed. I'll read from the bond that's been filed now. I mean, they're already bragging about it over in Trump world. I mean, Don Jr. said, "We posted the bond, it's up to the appeal." All right, you had to go to a subprime lender. Lord knows what fees that Donald Trump had to pay, some exorbitant set of fees, I'm sure above the market rate in order to obtain that bond. And he had to tie up $175 million of only the $300 million or so that Donald Trump has left in cash liquid assets. Let's do the math. Donald Trump says he had $400 million in cash about 6 months ago. That's for himself, his family, and to run his businesses. Okay? A lot of money to you and me, not a lot of money in the world of Donald Trump and these fraudulent businesses that he's running. But he had to take $100 million of it, $91 million of it, and he had to post it a month ago in cash to Chubb Insurance and their specialty bond surety unit and tie up $91 million that's been reported to be in a Schwab account, a Schwab securities account, cash. So that, take 91 from 400, you're down to $309 million left. And now he's had to tie up another $175 million of the $300 million, so more than half, in order to back Don Henke so his company, this Knight Specialty Insurance Company, KSIC, would even post the bond and then pay a fee in the tens of millions of dollars in order to do it. If I had to guess, the fee here is approaching $10 million, which would factor right into Don Henke, dollars and cents guy, numbers guy who's looking for a 30% return on his investment. Okay, then he needs to get it from fees like this one. Now, I've looked. We just got the reporting on the bond. We just got a copy of the bond. It just got posted tonight. I've looked, and as of right now, I don't see Don Henke listed, even though he's worth $8 billion, as a donor to Donald Trump. But I wouldn't be surprised. And we'll continue to do research, and we'll report it on other hot takes about whether we find that linkage between Don Henke and Donald Trump moving forward. I'm sure there is a link. We just haven't found it yet. But we will at the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. We'll continue to investigate. Don Henke, family owns a bunch of car dealerships. Started out with a Toyota dealership, and as I said, makes most of his money, a lot of his money, in making subprime, meaning very high rate, maybe right up to the limits of what is allowed and permissible as under usury laws. In other words, a loan that is over a certain percentage is considered to be usurious. It will be struck down by the courts. as being against public policy and unconscionable. So I don't know exactly what he charges for his subprime car loans. Anybody that's been involved with Don Henke, let us know and we'll report on it. But I assure you, it's been a healthy return on his investment, ROI. And he's looking for an ROI too, I'm sure, in the future, having now bailed out a candidate for the presidency. See, we're back to what we've said all along. We're watching a compromised candidate for the highest office in the world. He is financially compromised. He's having to sell himself to the highest bidder, foreign and domestic. He's done it with his Truth Social or Truth Media technology group on the stock market, where anyone can buy on the stock market and therefore get influence over Donald Trump, who's let it be known that he's financially basically destitute and needs help. And so who's going to come to his aid? Of course, foreign entities and the Don Henkes of the world who want to curry favor with Donald Trump. Now, when Chubb Insurance posted its bond for Donald Trump and took the $91 million cash in Donald Trump's account with Charles Schwab in order to do it, they had to post a letter that the head of Chubb Insurance basically apologizing to its investors, saying that, in effect, we don't take sides in the litigation, no matter how deplorable the allegations are against a person. Well, the allegations in E. Jean Carroll, as proved by a federal judge and a jury, is that Donald Trump raped E. Jean Carroll and then subjected her to horrible defamation. And he was hit with punitive damages by the jury. So Chubb, got singed as only a public company can. Now, the Henke Group, I don't think really cares. Don Henke's made a lot of money. He makes a lot of money as the king of subprime car loans. Think about it. I don't think he really cares what the public's perception is. But now he's got the ear and maybe more of Donald Trump. I don't know if there's a quid pro quo. Maybe Don Henke's just a very nice guy and saw a return on his investment and therefore just made the loan and bailed out Donald Trump. Just saying that out loud, I'm not sure that's true. Or he wants to curry favor with a person that he believes could be the next president of the United States if we have the restoration of the Trump presidency. Either way, you have a compromised Donald Trump who's beholden to people in a way that no other presidential candidate has ever been. It's one thing to accept donor money. That's one thing. But to be bailed out when you're on the balls of your ass by a subprime subprime car loan king, that's a whole different world. That's a whole different world. I'm not blaming Don Henke. I mean, he's a numbers guy. He saw a way to make money on a subprime credit risk in Donald Trump. And he did it. That's just doing good business as far as I'm concerned. If he wants to bail out Donald Trump and he can get a return on his investment, that's the American way, I guess. But I'm suggesting that Donald Trump is the one that we need to worry about. He's the candidate for office. He's the one that is auctioning himself off one piece at a time in order to bail himself out of these messes. Whether he's prostituting himself to his donor base, selling Bibles on Easter Holy Weekend, or he's selling sneakers out of the back of a van in Philadelphia, or he's selling himself piece by piece. Literally, you can invest in a presidential candidate, stock ticker DJT on the NASDAQ, and any foreign person can make that investment in a way that they can't make a donation to his campaign. And now you have bonding companies, Chubb Insurance Group and this Knight Specialty Insurance Company making their investments in Donald Trump, maybe for an ROI, a return on the investment that we don't even want to contemplate at this time. We'll continue to evaluate this situation. But what it means going forward is the undertaking has been posted. This is I'll read it to you here, the critical parts of it. That there is a judgment on the 23rd day of February 2024 against defendant Donald Trump, Trump's Trust, the Trump Organization, Trump Endeavor, the Trump Old Post Office, LLC, Donald Trump himself, his trust, and others, Don Jr., Eric Jr., and others, and Alan Weisselberg. And when you add it all up, there was a court order that by April 4th that there be an undertaking in the amount of $175 million, and this is on page 2 of the undertaking. Now, therefore, Knight Specialty Insurance Company, meeting the requirements to transact business and issue this undertaking in the state of New York and having an office and principal place of business at 4751 Wilshire Boulevard, Los Angeles, California, does hereby, pursuant to statute, in such case made and provided, undertake, here's the undertaking, that if the judgment so appealed from, or any part thereof, is affirmed or the appeal is dismissed, then the insurance company shall pay to plaintiff, people of the state of New York, by Letitia James, Attorney General of the state of New York, the sum directed to be paid by the judgment, plus interest and cost, or any part of it, as to which said judgment is affirmed, provided, however, that the bond is fixed at the amount of $175 million. That's courtesy of the appellate court, the First Department Appellate Division in New York, and the liability under this bond shall not exceed the sum of $175 million, signed by Knight Specialty Insurance Company. It says it's signed by the president of the company. That's not Don Henke. That's a guy named Amit Shah. Amit Shah signed this on behalf of the company. And now what that means is they posted the bond. They now have to perfect the appeal, which was the other requirement by the appellate division, which has to be done by the 8th of July with the filing of the record on appeal, along with the first brief. Then the Attorney General for the state of New York has until August 18th to file her brief on it. There's a reply brief that comes later in August, and then there is a hearing, an oral argument in front of the appellate division, First Department, presided over by Judge Renwick, which will happen in the September term, and a ruling after that. To answer a few questions that have come up before that I want to handle here. Firstly, the $175 million posted now, ordered by the judge, stops the enforcement actions by the New York Attorney General. She cannot go after the property even above the $175 million of Donald Trump. She can't execute on it. She can't take bank accounts. She can't garnish wages. She can't send the sheriff to padlock real estate or take planes or anything like that, with this bond now firmly in place, assuming that the appeal is perfected as they've directed, and they have no reason to believe Donald Trump will blow that deadline. The amount of interest runs on the full $465 million at the statutory amount, which is 9%, compounded in New York. So that doesn't change. It doesn't run on the 175. It runs on the 465. And all collection actions will stop. They'll go into this appellate mode. The Trump side will argue that the New York Attorney General was wrong to bring the case, didn't have the power under Executive Law 63-12 in order to disgorge the profits, or that the judge made mistakes about how the disgorgement, the ripping back and clawing back of ill-gotten gains that were obtained by Donald Trump running having an unlevel playing field in the operation of his business and committing persistent fraud, how that was calculated. And we'll try to pare back that number down to a much lower number, or almost zero, as they also attack other elements of the judgment, including the establishment of the monitor. The monitor, Barbara Jones, former federal judge, remains in place with robust new powers that the judge just gave her, subject to a future appeal on those issues, as does the independent compliance director, who is also established by Judge Engoron. All of that now we're in a moment of stasis, where the case sort of stays in place now that the bond has been posted. According to Donald Trump, the bond was posted in cash, meaning he had to pledge 1-to-1 ratio, dollar for dollar, for the $175 million, which makes sense under Don Henke's world of getting the highest return on his investment as he possibly can. We'll continue to follow this unsavory world of the appeal and the posting of the bond and what happens next on Legal AF. Tune in on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. on the MeidasTouch Network, and you'll find out what Legal AF means. We sit at the intersection of law and politics. I do the show on Wednesdays with Karen Friedman-Agnifilo, former prosecutor, on Saturdays with Ben Meiselas. And then we do hot takes like this one at the intersection of law and politics about every hour right here on the MeidasTouch Network. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know, and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.